Imagine stepping onto a sprawling maze of ice so vast and intricate that without a guide, you might find yourself hopelessly lost among ancient crevasses within minutes. Changing by the day and the season, Vatnajökull is constantly changing right under your feet. You could literally spend weeks exploring this landscape and then come back to a vastly different world. We're literally walking through history, stepping where the Vikings dared and ice ages shaped the land. One of 269 glaciers accounted for in Iceland, Vatnajökull covers over 3,000 square miles and 8% of Iceland's landmass. So it's not just the largest glacier in all of Europe, but it's also 3,000 feet deep. It's so big it's got its own weather system. It's literally like walking on this time capsule that's constantly changing. So how do you take on Iceland's biggest icebox in just one day? By doubling the action, which is why today's journey is broken up into two stages. First, we're hiking our way up Vatnajökull, crampons clamped and ice axes ready to experience the glacier by foot. Then we switch to high gear and zip through Iceland lagoons on a Zodiac boat. We are going to go by icebergs as large as houses, while coming face to face with the world's longest traveling and, might I add, very aggressive bird known as the Arctic tern. This episode is kind of like Ice Road Truckers meets Planet Earth. Iceland's erupting volcanoes are getting all the glory these days, so it's time to spotlight the ice in Iceland's famous fire and ice duo. Who needs hot lava when you got over 3,000 square miles of ice? And by the end of this episode, you'll have to decide what's better: hiking on a glacier with crampons or riding a speedboat to get to the edge of it. Join me as we step onto ice that's been around since the last ice age. This is Vatnajökull, the largest glacier in Europe. Let's go. It's worth noting that Vatnajökull has been captivating brave souls for much longer than you might think. This glacier has been a magnet for explorers for decades now. In September 1950, a 6-person crew of a private airline crash-landed right on Vatnajökull Glacier. The 4-engine aircraft, christened 𝗂𝗍𝗄, hit the northwest slope during bad weather, which means the crew was left completely stranded. It took 4 days after the crash for the crew to finally be able to send a distress signal, and luckily, they all survived unscathed because the cargo turned out to contain expensive furs and Swiss chocolate that was en route from Luxembourg to New York with a planned stop in Reykjavik. Talk about lucky. After 20 miles of navigating through Vatnajökull, the crew made its way back to civilization mostly unscathed. It puts it all relative to what we're doing today, doesn't it? Our adventure kicks off at the break of dawn in 𝗂𝗪𝗏. Because of the purity of Vatnajökull and the desire to maximize our time on the glacier, we chose the extra small group blue ice experience with Icelandic mountain guides. Because when you have a chance to explore a place so remote with just a few other people at your side, do it. At base camp, it's like Christmas morning for outdoor enthusiasts because we get our first taste of the gear, the crampons, ice axes, helmets, safety harnesses. And as an outdoor gear junkie, this is my candy store moment. Nothing makes you feel more like a pro explorer than gearing up in a mountain village that looks like it's straight out of a postcard. But here's the kicker. We're not riding any old bus or truck to the glacier. Our ride? A school bus turned 4x4 monster truck that's perfect to power through the rough, rocky roads. I have not felt this nauseous on an adventure since I rode a ferry from the mainland of Australia to Kangaroo Island, and I thought that was rough. But these roads were bumpy, the potholes were massive. There were times where we were tipping so far side to side, I actually can't believe we didn't even tip over. We need the shot that's what we're seeing. And while this was one of my first days in Iceland, after 3 weeks there, I quickly learned that these types of 4x4s are pretty much the way of life. As we tumble out of our trusty school bus turned monster truck, we hit the ground running, literally stepping into this clash of worlds because all around us is glacial moraine and above is this dizzying maze of towering ice. Because our trek begins on the moraine, this rugged rocky gravel that's been formed by the powerful tumbling of ice, there's something really powerful about hiking in that space with crampons, feeling the metal on your feet, feeling it as it grips the rock. As we make our way up, the path gets steeper and you can feel that landscape changing around you. It's getting cooler. The mountains, the rock formations, the old timers of this place, they're standing tall all around you, watching over Vatnajökull. And then something really magical happens. You take a step and you feel that first grip of snow. The higher we get, the more it feels like we're not just on a hike. We're literally stepping right into a living postcard from the Ice Age. Now, led by our trusty guide, who's part mountain goat, part ice whisperer, we start to ascend up a ridge that opens up into this vast field, peppered with endless crevices. This is the beauty that is Vatnajökull. This is what makes the time, the ride, the climb worth it. We've entered this dizzying maze as we traverse up one crevasse and down another and up another, pausing to look deep within holes carved into the ice where the water is such a vibrant, piercing blue, so blue, it's like you're looking into the heart of the ocean. And as you peer into the belly of the glacier, you can feel the power of the water carving its way to the water underneath the ice, to the lake all the way down below. And so you have this amazing contrast of staring up as far as your eyes can stretch, and then bam, looking right into the belly of the ice melt. You get a sense of how large Vatnajökull is, and I feel like we covered just a speck of it. So as you're going up and down in this maze of crevasses, you do get an instant sense of the power of what you're on, of this landscape that is constantly changing within you, on this landscape that makes Iceland so iconic. By this point, we've been huffing and puffing, going up and down these crevasses. So then the guide takes a moment to have us all pause and give us something we rarely get in life, the gift of quiet. It's like hitting a mute button on the world. All you hear is the occasional crunch of crampons and the soft cracking that reminds us that this giant isn't asleep, just very, very old. You lose all sense of time in a place like this. Your only focus is where to look, where to place your feet, feeling the ancient pulse of it all beneath your feet. Your first instinct is to keep moving, to try to see and cover as much land as you can. But then it's like all of a sudden your senses come alive and all you end up wanting is stillness. And what I loved most about this experience was a string of magical moments, like when the guide helped us rappel towards an ice cave so we could peer down into it. You only get a few minutes to look into the heart of the glacier. So you're so present with that because you get these moments where you get to look around and see. You're not just focused on where you're putting your foot, but you're actually focused on the very terrain that you've immersed yourself in this moment. After spending hours in this place, navigating the crevasses, getting all of the feels of the glacier, and what was really powerful is that as you look around the glacier, you see other small groups scattered in the distance, exploring their own part of Vatnajökull. But they were all making a certain way down, and I noticed they were all going one way and we were all going another. So it seemed like the guide had a little surprise for us, which she did. All of a sudden we look around and she points down with her ice axe at this bubbling natural spring literally coming out from under the ice. She made sure we all got turns if we wanted to actually lean down, lay on this 100,000-year-old ice and drink the glacier water. It is the freshest water you will ever taste, right off of the glacier's own tap. And it took me back to being a little girl, growing up on a farm where we had a natural spring right in our backyard, and that was the water that we had. And that moment of nostalgia was a beautiful cherry on top to this tour. So as our guide leads us back down the ice and into the rocky moraine, I just felt this incredible sense of peace and awe. I was reminded again that I think one of the best parts of exploring is not what you see, but what you feel with all of your senses. So after taking some time to reflect on the epic morning of being on Vatnajökull, we said goodbye to the rugged beauty of 𝗂𝗪 and headed east. After our icy trek, it's time to shift gears and see Vatnajökull from its most incredible vantage point, right where the glacier kisses the sea, Jökulsárlón Lagoon. Picture this. We're leaving behind Europe's largest glacier to explore Iceland's largest lake, which plummets to depths of over 800 feet. If you thought hiking on the glacier was awesome, this is going to get really epic. The lagoon is a living, breathing spectacle, constantly reshaped by glacial melt and calving icebergs. Imagine these giant chunks of ice drifting through a narrow channel, eventually lounging like lazy seals on nearby Diamond Beach. And a lot of times what's recommended is when you go explore this part of Iceland, you go to Diamond Beach to see the icebergs like this up close. But if you have the extra time, get on the water. go past the icebergs, 𝗂𝗪𝗏, and go up to the mouth of the glacier itself. So we've teamed up with Ice Lagoon Zodiac Tours for the VIP seat, and this is a tour you want to book because most other tours on the lagoon are on larger, slower boats. And that's fine if that's your jam, but you won't cover the same area as you will on a high-speed Zodiac boat. This dream gave us not only the chance to get up close to icebergs, we got up close to the glacial wall itself. Now this self-confessed gear junkie gets happy once again because before we hit the water, it's time to get more gear. Out come the waterproof suits and life jackets. Now that we're fully suited, I'm very happy, looking like a band of Arctic explorers. We pile into another 4x4 bus. Think again, less school bus, more monster truck. The weather now is completely different than it was while we were hiking on Vatnajökull. The skies are darker, more ominous. It just makes this really epic stage for the scene. And then all of a sudden we see the beauty of this high-speed Zodiac boat coming to shore. The air is so chilling to the bone, and it's so thrilling because we're not just heading to ice. This is ancient ice, thousands of years in the making, so the atmosphere is utterly electric. Luckily, we snagged the best seats in the house right in front of the Zodiac boat, and my husband and I felt the instant surge of the engines as the boats took off. And I'm telling you, we were instantly transported to this maze of ice giants. Some are the size of tiny, beautiful jewels, and others the size of school buses. It's like each glacier is this masterwork of art. You know, it's been sculpted over thousands of years. And we're just gliding through this incredible open-air gallery all around us. And just like our hike a few short hours ago, it would have been so easy to stay right here in this spot. But alas, we have an agenda to get to the foot of the glacier, and you can feel the engine rev to get right up to Vatnajökull's edge. It's a monolith. It's huge. It's old. You not only see the beautiful white and the piercing blue, but you see these crevices, these lines of different minerals and soils, and it's like ancient lines on an old face. The ice here, it's millennia old, and you know it's compressed so tightly that it absorbs all colors but blue. And even with fully cloudy skies, the blue is piercing. It's the most amazing feeling to know that a few hours before this moment, we were literally walking on the surface of this monolith. And it brings out the little kid in you. All of a sudden, you're looking around at this glacier wall, and then you realize the water's right there. You have to touch it. You have to feel what it feels like on your face. I was like a little kid on this tour. And what's amazing about this place is that it never looks the same. You could literally go on the same boat tour the next day, and this landscape could look completely different. At first glance, it could look like everything is completely still, but the icebergs are always moving as they melt and reshape. Our captain told us that literally just the other day, he saw an iceberg flip upside down. You just never know when something could become alive right in front of you. That's why it felt so rare and awesome to be able to pick up a piece of ice and hold it in my hands. I'm like a 7-year-old this entire day. That same little girl that wanted to do nothing but travel, I'm literally doing it right here, holding ice that is thousands of years old. Let travel find your awe, because it's all around you. Now, as we approach a scene coming right out of National Geographic magazine, I'm going to do my best David Attenborough voice. I have to. He's one of my heroes. Behold the Arctic terns, the jet setters of the avian world. These incredible birds have the longest migration pattern of any bird on Earth, flying over 18,000 miles between the South and North Poles every year. They've just completed their around-the-world tour, and it's during these warm summer months that they hatch. And today, fortune smiles upon us as we observe these weary travelers resting upon their chilly, unconventional runway. David, I hope I did you proud right there. So the Arctic terns are phenomenal. They're flying all around us. They're nesting and settling on this one iceberg right in front of our very own eyes. But I will tell you, that's not the only place where they like to hang out. And my husband found out a few days earlier that what seemingly is an innocent bird flying around can actually be quite territorial. It's actually a nest for the Arctic terns, and they started to dive bomb over us.
So when we realized it, you were like, it's a nest, and they were like, and then we started running down. I just went head over heels into a bush, and everything hurts. I fell on my shoulder, my neck hurts, my back hurts. But luckily, nothing actually poked our heads.
Thankfully, no, because they do attack that much.
I know, that's what that guide was telling us about, how they'll attack your head. So
I know.
I was running, and then I went down like that because I was thinking they're gonna get my head. It was rough.
You survived. Despite a few bumps and bruises, thankfully my hubby was fine and took it all in stride, but let's just say we were happy keeping our distance. So now, as the inspiring music swells once again, waving goodbye to the Arctic terns as we speed off, we're moving again past these phenomenal icebergs. Each one of them is this ice giant that we know won't be here forever. Each one is melting a little more into the sea. And you know, it's both awesome and humbling how this place is changing. It's like you're standing still in time, but you see time changing everything around you. I can't help but see it. Vatnajökull is vast, beautiful, stunning, and it won't be like this again. With every year, the glacier is losing ice and the lagoon is becoming larger. It's a humble reminder, you know, that the world is constantly changing. While our Iceland travels took us around the Rain Road and into the heart of the Icelandic Highlands, today on Vatnajökull felt sacred. There's something about this place that calls you to experience it in as many ways as you can. So much that if you only had one day in Iceland, I would tell you to come right here. As we make our way back, I'm reminded why we embark on journeys like this in the first place. To touch what feels like the untouchable, to feel the pulse of the world in places we least expect, and to share in the sheer joy and wonder of being alive. Today was about all of that, but it was also about impermanence. Nothing ever stays the same. It's not every day you get to touch a glacier, or race towards an ice wall, or hold ancient ice, or feel the cold water. It's not every day you get to see icebergs the size of houses and piercing like blue jewels. But every day you do get to decide something really powerful. To change, to explore something new, or stay the same. It's why I love to explore. It's always pushing me to reflect, learn, and stretch beyond what I know. And today was unforgettable. It was a place where the ice, not the fire, got to play, and it was well deserved. So this wraps up our epic tour of Vatnajökull, the largest glacier in Europe, and I can't wait to see where we head next. So if you had to choose one way to explore Vatnajökull after experiencing this epic day with me, what would you choose? Hiking on the glacier with crampons, or riding a speedboat to get to the edge of it? Let me know in the comments. Here's to more adventures, and to all of us, and to this incredible planet that we share. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring. I'm your host, Jenna Ahana, and I look forward to seeing you on the next adventure. Hey, thanks so much for watching today's episode. Take a second and like this video, then subscribe to Explore This so you can get notified on when the next episodes come out, where we're going to be seeking adventure, tasting the world, and discovering everything. So excited to have you with me. I'm your host, Jenna Ahana, and I will see you next time.
It tastes a little old.